What's up, oddballs? Welcome back to the Oddity Shop, the place where the bizarre is always on sale. I am your curator, Zach, sitting here with the other beautiful, creepy new background in her room. She's got her studio all set up. Curator, Kara.
Hey.
And this is the podcast where we tell you creepy, odd, weird, strange, bizarre stories from around the globe.
Yes.
How the hell are you?
Oh, I was going to ask you. I'm great.
I win.
I am good. I saw Beetlejuice.
No spoilers yet because I think I'm going to go try to see it this weekend.
Okay. Do you want me to give you...
Give me a general rating.
No, I'm not going to do that. But what I will do is I'll give you perfectly... Jessica Knappich summed it up before I went. Because I was like, hey, am I going to be disappointed? Like, the original's my favorite movie. Like, you know, blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
And this is exactly her words. Okay. It was a lot of fun. Quite a lot going on. They could have pulled back a little, but oh well. Definitely a lot to love. It's extremely cute and fun and weird. And I'll leave it at that because that was the perfect thing that I needed to just know going in.
Okay. I'll take it.
Okay.
That's good enough for me.
That's exactly my response to her. I said, I'll take that.
I mean, anything that's got Catherine O'Hara in it, I'm probably good with.
No, listen, it was cute. I mean, and obviously Winona Ryder's in it and Michael Keaton. He can't not play Beetlejuice.
I was watching something where people were breaking down the original Beetlejuice.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know how much airtime Michael Keaton had in the original movie?
Not a lot.
17 minutes.
Yeah.
17 and a half minutes. That's wild to me. Like, he's such an iconic character, and we got less time with him than you would like a TV episode of something.
Yeah, than you would think. Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, it is. But no, it was good. So
nice. I got my new laptop. It came in a day early, so I got it Friday.
I didn't know you got a new laptop.
Oh yeah, I treated myself for Labor Day.
I did not know that, you idiot.
Oh yeah, we've been really busy. We haven't talked to each other in like a solid week and a half,
which is fucking insane because we talk every day.
If I didn't even tell you about that. Yeah, no, I ordered it 9 days ago.
Yeah, well, there's a lot going on. I had like a migraine for 2 days. I was shitting my pants out for 1 day. Like there's a lot going on. You know?
Oh, by the way, we got a new subscriber on YouTube, and it was on the cannibal episode, but you were talking about bathroom issues you had. And the comment just says, as soon as she mentioned watery butthole, I subscribed. You're my people.
Yes. Yes.
Which was right next to a comment that said, no pictures? Ta-ta, I'm leaving. And I responded, I'm like, this is a podcast.
No pictures.
She's like, not even pictures? Because now with Google Podcasts being gone, it just puts a static image up on YouTube and can be searched on YouTube. We had nice next to hate. I felt like that was
That reminds me of Northwest when she was like a little toddler. Pictures. No pictures.
No pictures. Okay, so I recently, so we know, like, I went on the health journey to lose some weight this year. And now I'm trying to, like, bulk back up by building muscle.
Okay.
I have a new problem. I have taken out 3 cups of coffee or water with my backside in the last week.
Watery butthole.
But I just keep turning, watery from outside sources. I just keep turning around and knocking things over. It's like, it's not even like I have
it's
like
still a watery butthole.
It's still a tiny little butt, but it's like more than this flat thing I've had. So I'm like, oh my God, it's ridiculous. But yeah, the coffee massacre that happened at the ice house in the white bathroom was real fun.
Oh, I didn't hear about that.
Took me a couple minutes to wipe that all up, but I didn't break the mug, so that's a win.
Jesus Christ. I'm sure Denise is so happy he didn't break the mug.
Right.
Oh, no one will care, but it might be funny. Okay, remember when Emily was over and she fell through her deck?
Yes.
Okay. This bitch texted me literally like an hour ago.
I swear to God, if it happened again.
No, she just goes, she's the funniest texter in the world. Hold on. She just goes, so, next text, I came home. And I don't respond anymore. I wait because I know it's going to be a second and then there'll be more. And they started my deck. So I had no way to get into my house. So I had to crawl in a window. So her deck is her front. It's the front of her house. So there was literally like 4 feet from the door and she couldn't get in, so she had to crawl through.
Did she not pre-plan for this?
Apparently not. So that's her front door.
Oh, God.
So she had to crawl through the window. And I was like, please let me know that there's a video of this. And she's like, only like her going in, like not her legs. And I was like, damn. But isn't that funny?
That is funny. Falling through decks, watery buttholes. I think it's time to open the shop.
Probably.
What do you got today?
Okay, I have a question.
I hopefully have an answer.
Give me an adjective.
I hate that because like I whenever people
So
just
do
like
I thought you were gonna be good at
say
this.
what, dead.
Okay. Give me a large number.
45.
That's large?
Yes.
Okay. Give me an electronic device.
Ring light.
Oh, okay.
I'm literally just looking around my room.
I know. Okay, give me something scary.
Spiders.
Ew. And then what about a loud noise?
Would thunder work, or do you need like a
It just has,
crack?
maybe like we'll do crack.
Yeah, with 2 exclamation points, please.
Type of weather?
Windy.
Okay. Fantasy creature?
Mothman.
Oh, I like. Verb?
Dancing. Do you know how much I love Mad Libs?
Past tense verb.
Shrugged.
Adverb ending in ly.
Quickly.
Body part? Plural.
Fingers.
Past tense verb.
Studied.
Something from nature.
Leaf.
Friend's name? Kara. Noun.
Ghost.
Animal.
Horse.
Past tense verb.
Ran.
People are going to be like, this is the most annoying start to an episode. Adjective.
We'll probably cut some of it.
Adjective.
Green.
And then a holiday.
Christmas.
All right. Are you ready?
As I'll ever be.
It was a creepy scene. My friends and I decided to make a dead movie at night and on set and 45-year-old graveyard. We turned on our ring light and put on a spider costume. Just then I heard a crack. It was probably just the wind, I said. But then the sound moved closer and closer. Suddenly I saw a big shadowy Mothman dancing. I screamed. My friends shrugged over each other as I tried to escape quickly. As I ran, I closed my fingers and studied into a leaf. Okay. But then Kara pointed a ghost into the distance. It's just a horse, she said. We all ran in relief. Guess that green movie can wait until next Christmas. That was terrible. You suck.
You know, it had some high points, some low points for sure. Not my strongest Mad Lib.
Here's the thing. It's fucking spooky season, bitches. So we're going to tell some ghost stories, baby.
Spooky.
So pretend we're in our leggings and a hoodie by a fire with the cold, crisp air.
Oh, can we make it like, what was that old TV show? Are You Afraid of the Dark? What's that stuff they threw in the fire right before they started the ghost story?
Yeah, and it like...
Yeah, let me know when you're going to get ready to start each one and I'll just make a...
Oh, that's a good idea. And also, for those that obviously can't see us, but if you watch our little clip, I have my skeleton friend with a wig on over here.
I have my ghost. He's always here, though. And Nessie.
Honestly, I think I might keep this. Aaron's going to shoot me because you can see it from the hallway. Anyway, we're going to steal the believability scale out of Believing the Bazaar's book. So it's a really good pod if you guys haven't listened. They have tiers to the scale, and I'm just not getting that wild with it. But I'm going to ask you if you think each story is believable or not.
Okay. Are we going like a 1 to 10?
Sure. You can do whatever you want.
Okay.
And we can discuss a little bit.
I like this because when you feed me a scale, I always forget about it by the end of the episode. So I'm going to say a 1 to 10.
I mean, we could go 1 to 5.
1 to 5. Perfect.
Because that might be easier. Well, you just decide. And honestly, we all know that we're not as good as Believing the Bazaar. So at the end, we'll forget.
We always forget our own rating systems. All right, let's go. Spooky.
All right, let's get into it. So we're going to start with Kathy Roberts' story. And this is on Quora, which is almost like a kind of like a Reddit thread, if you're not familiar. So they have a lot of really cool things. And this was under the topic, has anyone had an encounter with a ghost in real life?
Ooh.
And this is what Kathy says. I have had a few experiences. This one happened not too long ago. I have been going to therapy for quite some time. At this point, I'd been with my current therapist for maybe 2 years. I was making progress and I was really impressed with how much she'd been able to help me. She had 2 young kids who would come to the office on days when there was no school. There was a playroom set up across from her office. Usually a nanny would accompany the kids. There was never any disruption to our sessions, even though the children were young. I was almost as impressed by that as I was with her obvious skills. This day, she came in with her 2 kids and started upstairs. A much older woman was between her and the kids. I thought she must have gotten a new nanny. She told me to come up and get settled in for our session, except I had an overwhelming feeling of sadness. I asked her if she was okay. She told me she was, but of course, she would say that because boundaries. I was looking past her at the closet with a dark wooden door when the strangest thing happened. The older woman I had seen behind her kids sort of materialized in the wood grain and then stepped forward behind my therapist. She put her hand on her shoulder. I asked again if my therapist was okay. I'd be like, am I okay? She assured me she was. Then the older woman seemed to notice me. She spoke, "Tell her I'm okay." I pretended I didn't hear her. She said it louder, "Tell her I'm okay." This time I said no. This was all happening not out loud, but telepathically. It's very hard to explain. It's sort of like having your head and your heart working simultaneously. Thank you. I didn't want to tell her that her dead mother was standing behind her and asking me to give her a bland message from beyond. I might have been willing to take a chance had she said, "Tell her about the time when she was 5 and she went to the beach and had a fishbowl," or anything that wasn't so mundane as "I'm okay."
Right. It's something that would like...
Right. So I asked my therapist one more time with greater urgency, "Are you sure you're okay?" This time she said, "Well, I just found out before I came to work that someone close to me died." I thought, yeah, no kidding. I told her I was sorry, and we certainly didn't need to finish the session since I also I knew it was her mother and she probably needed to make all sorts of arrangements.
Could you imagine even going to work?
No. You have to take up care of everybody else's problems?
Yeah, especially as a therapist. Oh my God.
That's what I mean. Meanwhile,
I didn't even think about that.
Jesus. Meanwhile, her mother continued to talk to me. Is this what it's like when you're trying to talk and I just keep interrupting you?
Sure is.
Okay. Here's the thing. This is my therapist, not a friend. I didn't really want to tell her I was seeing things. I also didn't want to pass on a message from beyond because it seemed like a really big boundary problem. I left and she told me she'd be gone for several weeks. In the ensuing weeks, I was obsessing about the message from her mother. Keep in mind, my therapist never told me who had died. When she came back to work, I screwed up my courage and told her what had happened. I described what the woman looked like, what she was wearing, and what she said. I told her I knew it was pretty bland message, but I had to tell her because I couldn't quit hearing it, and I had to say it out loud to her. She looked absolutely astonished. She told me that when her father passed, her mother would say, "I just wish I knew he was okay." It had become something that they obsessed about over for years. The message, "I'm okay," meant a lot to her and her siblings. Go figure. I have goosebumps, but what's your thoughts on believability?
I also have goosebumps. I accidentally hit mute when I said that to you, and we said it at the exact same time, but you didn't hear that. Okay, so as far as believability, I'm gonna say this one's pretty up there, just because like I always like to look for internal and external things, right? So like internally, the message had like a big thing, and she didn't think so. So they weren't trying to oversell details.
Exactly.
It definitely had a spookiness factor to it, but like sweet, but it's still your mom. It's just always spooky when like things mash up that well. But I also feel like this is one that we've heard of so many other times where it's like a loved one has a really specific message that the person receiving it doesn't get, right? And I think that's something we see a lot, which I think in this case helps the believability. So I'm gonna go with a 4 on this one.
Yeah, I agree.
Out of 5.
Okay, yeah, out of 5. No, I agree because it's one of those things where she's like, I'm not going to blurt out that this dead woman, whoever she is, says that she's okay, because it just seems like such a bland message. Like, give me like she said, like a more descriptive story so that I am not just pulling this out of my ass, but then it turns out to be something that was like really impactful. So I liked that one.
It was a good one. It was a good start.
Yeah. Okay. Moving forward, also from Cora. This is from writer Carolyn, I think it's Gersey. This is my favorite. It's also like the same one. Have you ever, under the same topic, have you met a ghost or whatever? I never met my father-in-law. He had passed before I met my husband, Paul. Paul and I were having a hard time, and he said he wanted divorce. I agreed. That night, his father, Frank, visited me in a dream and begged me not to leave his son. He said Paul needed me and I needed him. I decided it was just a dream and ignored it. The next day at work, I got a call from my husband's boss. Paul had a heart attack and was going to the hospital. I got in my car and sped off. Frank appeared in my car and told me to say it out loud that I loved my husband and he would live. I ignored him. At the hospital, I watched as Paul died twice and was shocked back to life each time. Then they wheeled him away to the cath lab. I was sent to a private waiting room and I knew they did not expect my husband to make it. I could see Frank looking at me sadly, but he would not talk to me. I began to cry and I said, "Please live, my darling husband. I need you. I love you." After a couple of hours, the doctor came and told me that he had inserted several stents, but my husband's health was iffy. He had died once more in the cath lab, but they brought him back. Paul was wheeled to cardiac ICU. I sat by him and I told him that I loved him. He made it through the night and the next night and the next night. Our marriage has been very happy for the past 7 years since that time. Frank peeks in from time to time, but keeps quiet. So that's it. I love that one. What's your believability? I love it.
Okay. Frank is the father-in-law, right?
Yes, that she'd never met before.
Why didn't she just like believe him and say it out loud? What was she like disbelieving herself?
Maybe, but if you think about it, like they were gonna get a divorce, like they had both agreed to it.
Oh yeah,
and then something
okay,
tragic happened, so they're having a hard time. He comes forward before the heart attack and was like, "No, you guys need each other." Like kind of, and she's probably like,
"Oh, okay, that's kind of sweet." I'm gonna give this one. I think I'm gonna stick with 4.
4. Okay.
Not anybody dying, right? But a family member I never met who gave messages in a similar fashion.
Yep.
So I know there is some truth to this one.
Yes.
Or could be some truth to this one. Yep.
Okay. So still with Cora, but it's just under a different category. So this is, have you ever witnessed something that you know for sure was supernatural?
Ooh.
So Holly Morrison writes, during the Christmas season, after my husband died suddenly in June, I took my 2 daughters, ages 4 and 9, to a department store to get our Christmas pictures taken. Holy crap. When we entered, Zach told me I should read to you guys slower, and now I'm like glitching. When we entered the store, they both needed the restroom. We were all still in a state of shock and trauma from their father's sudden death. And the girls had bickered and verbally sparred the entire 30-minute car ride to the store.
Ugh.
My nerves were shot long before that. I was a wreck. I feel like we can all envision like a mother with 2 young kids and their husband just died. Like, I wouldn't even want to be doing these pictures, but she's probably trying so hard.
And now your kids are like arguing on the way.
Yeah, I feel bad. We entered the restroom, which had 3 stalls. They went into the first 2 stalls and began talking back and forth while I stood leaning on the sink near the door. A well-dressed, middle-aged woman entered the restroom immediately after us. She looked me full in the face and smiled so warmingly that it took me a little bit off guard. I smiled back. Then she stood there listening to my girls go on excitedly about Christmas, and she smiled. I thought it was a bit odd but sweet, and it was only for several seconds. She then turned to me and said, "Children are such a great blessing, aren't they?" Suddenly, I wanted to cry. In my grief and stress, I'd almost forgotten what treasures my little girls were. I nodded, and she entered the last stall. Within a second or two, another woman entered. I said, "They're all in use, but my daughters will be done in a second." The woman stepped back to the last stall and said, "No, this one is empty."
Oh.
As she opened the door and stepped into the stall, the other woman had just entered, but not exited.
I feel like I would go completely pale.
I know. I have no idea who or what that woman was, but she not only turned my day around, but maybe my life. Tears running down my face. That's me. There's tears running down my face. What are your thoughts?
This has sort of like a guardian angel feel to it.
I know. I wonder if she was like some sort of like family relative from like generations before or something, you know?
Something like that, like ancestral, or like we've been talking so many times lately. I'm like, I wonder if it's like her from the future. Like,
oh, I never ever thought of that.
But I feel like, you know, she would probably recognize herself at least a little bit. So
maybe.
Yeah, I don't know.
But I like that.
I do like that one too, though. I a lot of the times when we're finding stories from Reddit, there's a lot of them that have like, you almost have to suspend some believability, but these ones have been pretty solid so far. I think, do I dare go another 4? Am I going to be stuck at 4?
I'm going to
go with one more 4. It's my show, our show. I'm doing 4.
Okay. This next one is a total Denise move.
Oh, God.
Okay. So we're jumping to BuzzFeed, and the topic is paranormal experiences that people say actually happened, and I'm low-key freaking out. When I was 13, my family stayed at a friend's old farmhouse while traveling through the area. When I was going to bed, my mother told me that someone had once passed away in that room I was sleeping in. So Denise. Then she wished me good night. It's so Denise coded.
That is, yeah. Mm-hmm.
She has a fucked up sense of humor. That's what this person wrote, which is also Denise. I love it. Can't you just see her being like, oh, by the way, Zach, somebody died in here. Good night.
I don't have to imagine it. I grew up with her. She used to hide, like, okay, after I watched Jeepers Creepers, she would hide this terrifying, like, monster thing all over my bedroom. Literally, like, hanging from my room the second I finished that movie. I shit my pants.
Oh, I love her. Okay. After I finally fell asleep, I was awoken to the feeling of a hand pressing onto my forehead as if my temperature was being taken. I felt it touch my hair. When I opened my eyes, there was a shadow of a woman beside the bed, leaning over me. In the dark, I thought it was my mother. So I just tried to brush her away and I went back to sleep. The next morning, when I asked why she came into the room so late, she told me that she hadn't. She'd actually gone to bed that night right after me. So do you think that's just mama fucking with them?
Yeah.
I know.
I feel like maybe if not, there was at least some nightmare fuel added before. Now, I will say she didn't do our usual thing of adding way too many details or like building up the believability at the beginning. So I'm gonna go down to a 3 on this one, only for the fact that I could see that being a very well done joke.
I think I'm actually even gonna go to a 2. Only because the only reason I say this is because it's not that story isn't believable, but it's just funny that it's like the mom did that. And I was like, no, I was sleeping. Like, and that's just it. Like, I don't know. Yeah. So that one, I don't know.
So I feel like here's the thing. We're gonna build this scale out as we go. The bare minimum for 4 is 1 bit of goosebumps while you're telling the story.
Wait, say that to me again?
To get a 4, it has to at least give me goosebumps one time.
All the other stories gave me goosebumps. This one didn't.
Right.
Which I know you guys are probably all like, I can't believe I didn't believe something.
That's on growth, Kara. Okay. So yes, goosebumps 4. 5 is like, holy shit, that's the wildest thing I've ever heard. 3 is somewhere in the middle. Okay. We're figuring it out as we go.
All right. So this is the same BuzzFeed article. Okay. Little did my parents know when they purchased their 1911 dream home. Why did 1911 trip me up?
I don't know.
I almost said 911. 1911.
Oh, those 1900s. Different time.
Their second born would be best friends with a little girl in the attic. Ever since I can remember, I've known things I shouldn't be able to, and I have seen things that weren't technically there. As a young child, my parents played these things off as my imaginary friends. Time went on, I grew up, and my imaginary friends never went away. One friend in particular stayed close to me for a long time. She began peering in my doorway at age 3, and she aged alongside me, which that's interesting.
That is really weird.
Years after the little girl first appeared, my family and I were cleaning out our basement. Above the exposed rafters, my brother uncovered a stack of old photographs. On top of this pile of dusty images was my imaginary best friend, and beside her face was the name Jane. Jane would come into my room almost nightly. She would walk down the attic steps, stare at me through my doorway, and enter my room, sometimes playing with things, but always praying at the foot of my bed. Jane would finish her nightly visit by walking down the stairs to my family living area. When our alarm was set, she would set the motion sensors off. Still, my parents never believed me. They said it was dust. I spent the next few years sleeping with my lights on so Jane wouldn't startle me so much. And soon, as I aged, I began to see her less and less. At 15, I stopped seeing her altogether. She became more of a feeling or a voice I would hear at times of struggle, a spirit I credit with saving my life more than once. After finding her photograph, it became my most prized possession, and I stored it in a china cabinet in our kitchen. It wasn't the most secure location. One afternoon, when I was 15, our kitchen had a fire, and the stack of pictures burned. In adulthood, I started stretching my psychic muscles and seeing things again, which reassured me the whole thing wasn't just my imagination, and made me long for Jane, who I'd last seen 20 years ago. I began to want to know if I could prove through documentation that she was really a natural person who died in childhood. Thankfully, with time, genealogical websites became very prominent, and I researched my house and the families who lived there. Then, in an obituary in 1918 newspaper, I found her. Jane Hill Patrick was born on July 19th, 1903, and then died July 24th, 1918, of rheumatic fever.
Yeah.
She died in my home. The address was listed in her obituary because her wake was held in our house. She died at 15, the same age I was when I stopped seeing her when the picture burned. Thankfully, through my research, I've located her brother's child. Her now 90-year-old nephew had only ever heard stories of his aunt. However, he did have a photograph. He graciously shared with me the only known remaining image of her, the face I saw unmistakably. It was my earliest friend and my favorite spirit, Jane. And I 100% believe this, and my goosebumps are so hard.
Okay. Yep. So
I don't care if you don't.
No. This one started at a 3 for me because I've never really heard of a ghost aging alongside somebody. But as we went on, she started talking about more like she's obviously some sort of medium. Mm-hmm. And the background knowledge and stuff. I will say I got some pretty big chills at the end. The way it was written was spooky and good. There was a twist. I'm gonna give it a 5. Now, you know what though? I'm 4.5. I feel like I need like a little more. This is spooky ghost stories sort of thing, so a little more fright for a 5. But I'm gonna give it a 4.5. Oh my
God, I didn't say fright gave you a 5. I just said believability.
Oh, you're right. Okay.
You know what? It's your scale, Zach. You do what you want.
It's gonna change after every story. So
I know. Okay. On to the nitty-gritty. Ready?
Here we go.
My wife and I have lived in our house for 3 years. It's an older house built in the 50s, which do you consider, I guess 50s is like an older house, but is it? I don't know. I don't think so.
Not where we live. I feel like Michigan has older houses.
Okay. There were a few times when I was at work and my wife would call me and tell me she heard footsteps talking and doors being closed when she was alone during the day. I always take her seriously. I never want to be that asshole husband/boyfriend in horror films that calls their significant other crazy and gaslights them. What a king. Calls like those have happened a few times. Then over time, we didn't really speak about it.
Oh my God, you said king. I thought you said what a kink. I heard
what
kink,
a king.
And I'm like trying to figure out where the kink was in that. Okay, sorry.
No, he's a king.
King, yes.
About 2 weeks ago, we were coming back from the grocery store. My wife was backing into her driveway. Her driveway. Okay, king.
He parks on the street because she deserves to park in the garage.
I guess so. My wife was backing into her driveway as she often did. I was looking at her rear backup camera when I saw a man standing with his back to us facing the front door. I at first assumed it was an Amazon delivery or someone dropping off landscaping business cards, but then they were blurry. I whipped my head around to get a better look at with my own eyes, and there was no one there. I immediately turned to my wife with a look of shock. You saw him, didn't you? Sometimes he stands near the trash cans. Sometimes I see him out of the living room window, she said to me very nonchalantly. She told me one time she got a good look at his face one day. She was folding laundry in the living room and looked up to see his face pushing through the wall. Like the spandex wall trick from the first Nightmare of Elm Street.
Oh, I don't like that.
Woo! He seems pretty harmless. He never comes inside, and he only comes during the day.
Okay. All right. One, definite spooks.
But first off, 10 out of 10 husband, because he's not crazy. He's not crazy talking her, and he's not gaslighting her.
No.
So
no,
husband,
no.
10 out of 10.
And gives her the whole driveway.
Yeah, and she has her own driveway.
Might be 11 out of 10 in all honesty.
Yeah, honestly, that's great.
We'll give him the highest we can on that scale. This one is definitely a weird one.
Yeah.
Reminds me of somebody else who might see shadow people in their house and what another person in that house doesn't. So I did have a little bit of goosebumpies. I'll go for it.
Wait, are you talking about you or me?
I guess I could go either way, but I was thinking more about you. Are you the one seeing shadow people?
Jesus Christ, I will never forget that for the rest of my life.
I know. Yeah, I'll go the 4 on this one. It seems believable. I had a goosebump. Once again, I can relate it to experiences, so
I think that
sorry, go on.
No, what were you gonna say?
The only part that sort of pulls it away from me is like the face in the wall. That's so horror movie.
But let's think about that part, because he never saw that, she did. So she probably told him what it looked like, and he's describing it to us, but he didn't see that. So
okay,
I kind of give that like a little bit of the benefit. Do you know what I mean? Because
he's trying to explain something he's never seen. I'll give him that. Sure.
So maybe that's just like the best way he can describe it. But yeah, I agree. That one's just a little bit really freaking eerie. It is strange that the title of that one was He Never Comes at Night, because he only comes during the day.
That is kind of weird, because most stuff only starts to happen at night.
Yeah, her quote to him was, he seems pretty harmless. He never comes inside, and he only comes during the day. It's very weird that he doesn't come inside. He just stands in the driveway, peers through like the wall, stands in front of, like, it's just weird.
Maybe he's waiting to be invited in.
Like a vampire.
Yeah. Ooh, creepy. Okay.
All right. Moving on. Me and a group of friends visited Gypsy's graveyard, otherwise known as Southeast Grove Cemetery in Hebron, Indiana. Hebron, Indiana. Hebron. Shut the fuck up. I don't care. If you're from there, I'm sorry. About 3 months ago. The history behind this place is so crazy. I suggest you look up the history behind it. There are many stories on forums, Reddit, and basic websites. It is said to be cursed by gypsies back in the 1800s. There has been rituals done there, which ties into what I am experiencing, I am pretty sure. The first couple of times we went, nothing too crazy happened. That couldn't be debunked. Orbs, orange light in the distance. My friend said he saw a hand behind a tree. I want to say the second or third time we went, my memory isn't the best. We found a stuffed bear and its nose and eyes cut out in the middle of the woods behind the cemetery, which my friend discovered and ended up taking it home for whatever reason. Are you fucking dumb?
Okay, first of all, everything so far just sounds like kids finding things when they're out looking for ghosts, right? But like, I could see somebody hiding that bear, whether it was somebody fucking around or don't take that shit home with you if you think it's part of a ritual. First
off, don't take any part of any place. Ask Zach when he took a piece of a haunted asylum home with him.
Okay, yeah, that was a horrifying mistake, and I'm still paying for that. Don't take things from haunted locations.
Okay, thinking back on it, now this should have been the first sign something was wrong. Like we just said. I haven't been back in a month. My friends went back recently without me to get rid of the bear. Instead of taking it to where we found it, they threw the bear into the cemetery and sped off. 7 minutes away from the graveyard, something hits the windshield of my friend's car. He slams on the brakes and turns around. And it's the bear in the middle.
No.
Sitting normally. I have been suspicious of something being attached to my friend for a while. At first, just off the fact that he wants to keep it. He also will get strangely mad and overprotective of it when we have brought it up in the past. He's talking about the bear.
Mm-hmm.
My friends have no reason to lie or make this up, nor would they. I know for a fact one of my friends would tell me if it was something that just to scare me. I don't know what to do or what to even think. Someone please help. And then there's an edit to it. Also, the night they tried to get rid of it, he had a dream of him waking up in the same spot he fell asleep. He said there was a shadow that was in the shape of the bear, and the shadow turned into a girl/little girl. And that's it.
Okay.
So basically, from this really hard read, these children, young children, I don't know how they are, went to a cemetery. They find this mutilated bear. The one takes it home. Then weird things kind of, I guess, happen. So they decide to take the bear back. Then apparently the bear just like gets thrown against the car and is in front of them. And now this girl, the title of this was I Need Help. And this girl, or I'm sorry, is this a girl or boy? This person is now asking for help because they think that their friend is possessed. That was the title. I need help. I think my friend is possessed. I don't know why we think our friend is possessed off of this.
Yeah, this to me, okay.
But it's so... Sorry, what were you going to say?
I'm going to go 2. Here's the thing. I think it's well written. I think it's a creepy story. It's definitely like, oh, I forgot our campfire noises. I was going to say a good campfire, like, story. But I feel like...
Do you want to know why I think it's real?
Okay, yeah. Well, you read it.
No, it's not well written. It's all over the place. It doesn't even make sense to me. You have to sit and then really rethink about it, which sometimes that's how people's brains are when they're just like, I need help. Like, yeah. Chaotic.
I just think, though, like it could be my brain, right? But there's so much of people who come out with like haunted items that turn out to be debunked very easily, right? And we know that you and I know that items can take on psychic energy. So this to me feels more like, also for me, whenever I see people like begging for help on Reddit, there are so many other avenues. If you were really thinking somebody was possessed that you would go to before Reddit, that like, to me, it just seems like a good story.
Yeah, maybe.
It's a good story. I like it.
I don't actually think that the bear flew and it was just in the street. And I don't think this person is possessed. I think some creepy things happened to these people in the woods.
And it got embellished.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that would make a really great like horror short.
Yeah, it would. Make it. Somebody, not us. We're not smart.
We can hardly do a Mad Lib.
I don't know. This happened circa 98. I was about 13. We lived next to a fence in a heavily wooded area. Sorry, I have the hiccups. Behind our local YMCA.
Oh, God.
Being that we lived in a large city, there was a ton of crime, and a few bodies had been found in these woods over the years that were unalived people. We had an extremely religious Christian neighborhood, and my dad was close with, as they were both single parents. She told my dad that there was a demon that lived there in those woods as a result of negative energy from the violence those woods have seen. I wasn't allowed to go there, but I still would. Never at night, though, and a few times I did.
Never, except for sometimes.
I would hear footsteps behind me or feel complete dread the whole way home, as I only used them as a shortcut to walk home sometimes from friends' houses. Bitch, just don't go in the woods. I know this sounds silly, but even in this lit up city, those woods were so dark. I get that woods are supposed to be dark, and what a stupid thing to say, but this was a different kind of darkness. I don't know how to describe it except for saying they just felt evil. Anyhow, 1998, 13 years old, I did not have the easiest upbringing. My dad was in a constant state of anxiety. We were poor, my dad always owed money to somebody, and my brother and I were pretty much neglected, as all teens in the 90s seem to have been. It was the 90s.
I thought that was more like the 80s, wasn't that? Where like kids were just like left to their own devices.
That's probably all of it.
No seatbelts.
I love my dad very much, but there was always some kind of negativity or hardship in his life, which in turn was reflected onto my brother and me because we lived with him. My mom moved out of state when I was 10. There was literally no solace, and I lived a stone's throw away from the woods. It first started with the reoccurring nightmares. A blackness would seep out of the woods like fog. I could never get away fast enough. It would envelop me and drag me into the woods. I had this dream every night for months. My dad was convinced we were under attack, whereas I thought it was just him and the neighbor freaking me out over their theories. One night we were sitting in the driveway in my dad's beat up old Volvo. We were having an argument. I don't remember what it was about, but we were going back and forth, just being nasty to one another. And I'll never forget it. My dad said, every time we do this, we just feed this thing that lives out in the woods. I laughed at him. I remember saying something to belittle him, just can't remember word for word. But it was something that pretty much made fun of him and the thing in the woods. At that very minute, something started beating on the trunk of the car. It felt like two fists coming down on the trunk over and over. We both screamed. It got harder and louder. At that moment, I threw my arms around my dad and I said, I love you, I'm sorry. And he said the same. Almost like a chant, it became, and we said that words to one another over and over. The blows to the trunk became softer and lesser until they disappeared altogether, and we were both in tears. Later, when we inspected the car, there were dents that looked like fists on the back of his trunk. I know the car was already beaten to hell, but those were not there before. My dad has since passed away, but even if he were alive, he would never talk about this. The few times I tried to bring it up over the years, he shut the conversation down and just as fast as it was mentioned. We moved shortly after that. I still believe in my heart and soul that those woods have evil in them, and I live 3 miles away from them now. Sometimes I feel curious enough to try to go back to record to catch something, but then again, I'm so terrified to even think about walking into the woods at night.
Okay.
Dude.
So this is a potential 4 or more. I definitely have goosebumps, but there's a few details.
Me too.
One, whenever people start with the demon, I immediately am like skeptic, but I have to remember that there's a lot of people who are writing stories on Reddit who probably aren't.
But let me just interject. She didn't say it was a demon.
Who did?
The neighbor said that there were demons in the woods.
Right.
And she didn't believe it.
Okay. But like, I just hate when like that's the immediate go-to. If there are people who are unalived, I do think there could be some like feelings like dread and sadness and sorrow, right? That
for sure.
Now, too, if the neighbors are telling you that, of course, you're going to go in there with some bias already.
Mm-hmm.
The beating on the truck, though, that's pretty creepy.
So let me ask you this, because we're just going to say it's real. Do you think, though, that it's like the teenage angst and the hardship of the father and just like that bringing energy? Like it's probably maybe not the woods at all. It was just that. Or do you think the woods plays off of the energy of the woods plays off of the angst and the.
Okay, there's definitely some sort of like how we've talked about the poltergeisty feel in the past to it. I could see that.
Yeah.
Gosh, that's a tough one. I'm gonna go 4. I'll give her. Yeah, we're gonna go benefit of the doubt.
I think it's believable. I believe it. Yeah, I believe it. I had goosebumps. I think that the details that you're talking about I shouldn't even say you, that you and me would normally be like, no, they weren't coming from her. They're coming from like the neighbors and the people. And she's just like, oh my God, you guys are overly religious and crazy. Like,
that's a fair point.
Yeah. So I don't know. Okay. I used to live next door to my 89-year-old landlady, who was a lovely woman. Every afternoon at around 5 p.m., she would be at her beloved garden, sweeping the leaves from the walkway with a stick broom that could be heard from my house. One evening, I arrived to find her sitting in her garden, broom in hand, weeping. I sat beside her, took her hand, and asked her what was wrong. I just realized, she said, that soon I am going to die and I can't take my garden with me. Don't worry, I said. I'm certain that part of you will remain in this garden. She passed a couple of weeks later, and for months, every afternoon at 5 p.m., I could still hear the sound of her sweeping.
Chills. You know what? That's a 5. I believe it. Didn't oversell it, didn't undersell it. It was perfect.
So that one was from Cora, and I wasn't going to include it into this because it just was like, it was just a little short blurb, and I read it and I really liked it, but I wasn't necessarily going to include it. But then I read this next one, and this one is from Reddit, so it's not even in the same like realm. But I read this next one and it made me think of this one, so I had to include it.
So real quick before you go into that, I will say I'm impressed with Quora, because usually when I'm looking up something and I get like a result between Quora or Reddit, I always think Quoras suck compared to Reddit. But
I've been liking Quora a lot.
I think because there's less of like an popularity into the upvoting and stuff, I think we're getting more realistic answers on this kind of stuff from Quora than because sometimes on Reddit you can tell people are really pandering for
the creepypasta and like just the made up stories. Yeah,
exactly.
All right, so this one is from Reddit though. Like I said, it made me think of the other one I just read you.
Okay.
I need help. Now I know you already said when people ask for help on Reddit.
Yeah, I'm my guard's up.
Okay. I've been living in this old house for almost a month now, and strange things have been happening. At first, it was just small things, door creaks opening on their own, cold drafts in rooms with no windows. But lately, it's been getting worse. Last night, I woke up suddenly feeling like someone was watching me. I looked around, but my room was empty. Then I heard it, a faint, rhythmic tapping sound, like fingernails lightly drumming against wood. It was coming from the far corner of the room, near the old wardrobe that was there when I moved in, which, what does that remind you of?
Conjuring.
Yeah.
100%. This is the Conjuring so far.
As I got closer, the tapping stopped, but the air around the wardrobe felt heavy, almost suffocating. I reached out to open the door, but before I could touch it, I noticed something strange, a small, delicate handprint on a dusty surface, too small to belong to any adult. It hadn't been there before. Freaked out, I backed away and then left the room, deciding to sleep on the couch downstairs. But the moment I laid down, I heard soft, muffled weeping. It was coming from the hallway. I grabbed my phone for some light and cautiously stepped out. Following the sound, it led me to the front door, which was slightly ajar, even though I was sure I'd locked it. Outside, the night was eerily quiet except for soft crying. I looked around but saw no one. Then just as I was about to head back inside, I saw her, a woman standing at the edge of the garden.
Oh, I was wondering when we were going to tie in the first one. Okay.
Facing the house. She was wearing a long white robe with dark hair hanging limply over her shoulders. Her head was slightly bowed and her Her head was slightly bowed and her shoulders shook as she wept. I called out asking if she was okay, but she didn't respond. Instead, she slowly lifted her head and turned to look at me. Her face was pale, almost translucent, and her eyes were empty, hollow, filled with a deep, sorrowful void. I felt a chill run down my spine as she raised one hand pointing toward the house, and then at a small shrine I hadn't really paid much attention to before, tucked away in a forgotten corner of the garden. I couldn't move, frozen in place by fear and curiosity. She opened her mouth as if to speak, but all that came out was a faint, choked sob. Then, just as suddenly as it appeared, she was gone, leaving only the cold night air and a faint smell of innocence behind. This morning, I went out to the shrine. It looked old and neglected, with a thin layer of dust covering the stone surface. As I cleaned it, I noticed a faint engraving of a name I couldn't quite make out, worn down by time. Next to it, there was an offering bowl, dry and cracked, with remnants that looked like long, decayed flowers. I have a feeling the spirit is trying to tell me something, but I'm not sure what. The clues, the small handprint, the shrine, the weeping woman, what do they all mean? Does anyone have any idea of what kind of spirit this might be or what she wants from me? Any advice on what I should do next?
Okay.
I have goosebumps. But doesn't that make you think of the other one with the old lady that was crying about her garden, and then this lady is crying in the garden?
It does. But here's the thing about the things I was immediate belief on were like, it's less about this evil and there was more of like a person we knew, a message coming across sort of thing. I will say this is probably the best story in the creepiness factor so far. We should have done a believability and a creepy.
Oh,
you know,
yeah,
we're going back to the beginning. We're starting over. No.
Okay.
because I'm somehow like tying them together in my head. But
I know, but you could see why.
I don't believe this one.
No?
Now, and here's why. Because now
wardrobe.
I will say I put the phone or the book down really early, but I read the first half of the first book of House of Darkness, House of Light, which is the book that Andrea wrote on the Conjuring house.
And it's not.
And this is actually really similar, not what happened outside, but everything inside, yeah. Even though it doesn't exactly match up with the movie. This is very close to what happened in the book.
I know.
And then, like, you just noticed a headstone in the garden. To me, that's like, it's too much of an amalgamation.
Well, she didn't really say a headstone. It was just a tiny little shrine. So, I don't know. But you can see, like, that other story that was much more believable. Yeah. I was like, I read that first. And then when I was reading this, I was like, oh my God, I had to dig back through Reddit thread to find that original one. Because I'm like, they sounded so similar that I was like, what if this is the lady that died?
I mean, I liked that story. It was definitely a creepy one. But I'm going to have to give this one, I'm going to give it a 2.5.
Okay. I'll take it.
Yeah, I'll put the 2.5. The 0.5 because I got good creeps through it. And I feel like giving the benefit of a doubt a little bit today.
I'll take it. Well, this has been a really long episode, but I wanted to try to creep you guys out. Have a little bit of a, campfire ghost stories for our spooky season.
It's definitely the whole thing. I could see any one of those stories being an Are You Afraid of the Dark episode.
Mm-hmm.
Which I've recently gotten back into watching again. So.
Oh, I rewatched wait. Is that on Netflix?
Do you know Ryan Gosling is in one? Yes.
I did know that. Yeah, I rewatched a bunch of those last year. Maybe they added more. I should go watch them.
They're so good.
All right. Well,
good job.
I know we're really long into it, but I hope that you guys are having a good spooky season. I know that we're later on into the spooky season already, but I hope everyone's having fun.
More than halfway to Halloween since the beginning of the month.
Halloween is like next week from this.
2 weeks?
Whatever. It's like super quick.
I guess by the time we start celebrating the festivities, a week.
Yeah,
because be honest, we've been celebrating all month.
It is the 17th today. So next week right? Whatever. It doesn't matter.
We don't know time or dates. You know what we do know?
We
know that
Halloween.
We love you guys. And we know it's Halloween. And we know that we also really love reviews and write-ins and phone calls to the phone number below where you can leave your own stories. Okay, example. Any of those stories that she did earlier, between 3 and 6 minutes long, of creepy things that have happened to you for us to talk about will be nicer to you guys. Don't worry. Leave them. This is what we want to do for bonus episodes. Yes. Then we don't have to hear Kara struggle through the words. You yourself can struggle through your own words.
You can struggle through your words, and you can be on a podcast without having to write, produce, edit, and all that stuff. You could just be here.
Hanging out with us.
Okay, we love you. We appreciate you. We would love for you to do all the things that we just asked.
And if you don't do any of those things, leave a little ghosty emoji.
Leave 2 ghosts.
Perfect.
So do all those things. We love you so very much. We appreciate you, like I just said. And most importantly, creep a real, you oddballs.
Goodbye.
Bye.